Grab your goat, grab your wand, grab a cocktail, because it is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Yes, indeed. Where Richard-Lael Lillard, Jason Mankey, Courtney Buckley, and the beautiful Heather Greene and I talk about witches. I don't think there's any in this movie. Witches in movies. Yes, yes. We are all here. You are here. This is live, so we want you in the chat room talking about it. This week, we are doing Flash Gordon, the 1980 version of Flash Gordon. I thought we were doing Flash Gordon. We'll talk about that later, but it's Flash
Oh,
Gordon. Hi, everybody. All right, let's introduce ourselves. Again, I am Patti. You might know me from my Witching Hour podcast or Ghost Adventures or Bathroom Walls Across America. I want to thank you right now for my new little fat black Baphomet gray black Philip right here with my old one. Hi, Tony. He's so cute. I do have to share him with Willow though. Richard-Lael, introduce yourself.
I am Richard-Lael. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a. With that, I am known as the Gentleman Psychic, and I am here in New Orleans, but I am everywhere good gentleman psychics are sold.
And you are dressed fabulously for this film tonight, sir. Indeed. And we do want to see some pictures later. Jason.
I'm Jason Mankey, harmless drudge and longtime Llewellyn author, having written 9 books. Wow.
Amazing. Thank you. Courtney.
that's me. I'm Courtney Buckley, formerly of Massachusetts, currently of California. So that's why my background looks different. I brought Black Phillip, but I want to be like Jason Mankey so bad that today I bought a White Phillip. So, because Jason's my idol, and I'm much calmer in California, and I'm probably not going to hex him today. So,
Yay.
Oh,
Everything's coming up Mankey tonight.
Yep.
Woo!
California. We're cool, calm, and collected here in California. And Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Greene, and I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, a book about American movies and television with witches in them, and not this film. But I love talking about all things movies. I am also a journalist covering the occult topics and a editor at Llewellyn Worldwide, and I'm happy to be here with my coven once again.
Yes, the whole coven is here today. We are very good. We'll see if we can hold to no hexing or not. Not sure. Anyway, I hope you guys all watched it. Flash Gordon. Da 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 da. Music. I had forgotten. Yes, that's very good. Until I heard it, I went, wait, that sounds so familiar. So just in case somebody did not see it, Richard-Lael, can you give us an unbiased, quick synopsis of this entire film?
I certainly can. And before we go too deep into the synopsis, I must say that there may not be a witch, but there is magic. And I'll get to that in a moment. But in this film, if you are an old person like me and read the comic books back in the 1930s or watched the 1934 Buster Crabbe 4-hour-long film, or the 1939 or the 1940. Oh, it is a saga, and it is actually what has inspired Star Wars, along with Buck Rogers of the 25th century. But unfortunately for George Lucas, he could not get the rights to Flash Gordon, so he created his own Star Wars. Now, with that said, I don't like Star Wars. Jaws was never my scene, and I don't like Star Wars. That's a Queen reference because
Yes.
the soundtrack is, of course, done by Queen. And truthfully, I have to say, I don't love Star Wars. But anyway, this film is about, there is an approaching planet. It's sort of the Nibiru of the 1930s. So there is this approaching planet that is ruled over by an evil emperor, Ming the Merciless, who is bored and wants nothing more than to find a plaything. Cletus, I'm bored. What plaything have you bought me? Anyway, so he's going to destroy Earth. But in the meantime, Flash Gordon and Dale, what was her last name? Arden?
Dale Arden.
Arden.
Flash Gordon and Dale Arden are in a plane. He is an American footballer. She is a member of the press. And somehow they end up by meeting Dr. Zarkov, who, of course, shoots them to a rocket to save Earth. And along the way, there's space love interest, and he meets up with some lovely space ladies. He makes the princess fall in love with him, even though he's in love with Dale. And then he meets some leather daddies with wings and space stuff, flying things, a lot of explosions, a lot of Queen, a lot of trouserless people, which is fun. The end, or is it? They kill Ming the Merciless because the leather daddies have somehow teamed up with Flash Gordon, and they crash into the wedding when Ming the Merciless is trying to marry Dale Arden against her will before he shoots her out to space. And the rocket ship actually crashes into the palace, impaling Ming the Merciless. And then the ring that he was wearing drops to the floor, and then he picks it up, and it says, "The end?" Question mark. Which, of course, is a throwback to the 1934 set of series. It was 4 hours long if you were to watch it from beginning to end, but it was only about 20 minutes each. So it was cut up into 20-minute films. Anyway, that's sort of the synopsis.
Thank you. Now that we completely understand the film, now I know Heather isn't in your book because there's no witches in it, but do you have any of your nice informational that you're so good at?
Sure. I'm going to pull up my papers and figure out exactly what I've got here. So I've got...
Wow. I have to ask, do you have files on every movie ever created? Maybe, or I create them. But so let me get started with this Cliff Clavin moment for us with 5 different facts brought to you about this movie. I'm going to start with its origins, which Richard-Lael already touched on a little bit. And then we'll get to context. Of course, I love context. And then 3, Flash Gordon by the numbers. And then number 4, the music. Of course, we can't not talk about that. And then 5, I want to do a little chat about the cast. So first, the history of Flash Gordon. As Richard-Lael said, it started in the 30s, 1934, written by or illustrated by Alex. I think it was Raynard or Raymond or Raynard. I can't read my own handwriting. It's Raymond. Alex Raymond.
Raymond? Really? Okay, there you go. Something. And Dan Moore. It was actually made to compete with Buck Rogers, and then it overtook it in popularity. It became, by 1936, it was a radio program, Flash Gordon, in the Caverns of Mongo. There you go. I can read my own handwriting. And then movie sequels, Richard-Lael mentioned, 1936, 1938, 1940, extremely popular. Movie serials are pretty much like episodes that we have on television, but they were in the movies. There was no television then, so you can go see these episodic movies, shorter movies. Then it came to TV in 1954 and 55. Then there was a Flash Gordon version made in 1974, which we will not be talking about on this show. And then in 1979, 1980, we had an animated Flash Gordon. Then, of course, this movie, 1980, another animated in 96. And then apparently there was a TV version in 07 and 08. I don't think I've ever seen it. So that's Flash Gordon was very popular. The 1930s is not surprising. It actually was created then because that was actually when a lot of superheroes were being created. Wartime, getting ready for World War II, people were looking for heroes. Captain America, Superman, Spider-Man. A lot of our most famous superheroes were created at that time. So it's not surprising. So that's number 1. Number 2, let's go to context. So why did this movie get made in 1980? Well, as again, Richard-Lael hinted at, Star Wars, one of the reasons. So at this time, again, America was looking for heroes. This was the end of the 70s, early 80s. We were going into a conservative period. And what became really popular? Hero movies, whether it was superheroes. We had Superman then. We had another Buck Rogers at the same time, which was not as good, or well, that
we can have that discussion. You had a Spider-Man movie. You had Wonder Woman TV show. You had Super Friends on animated shows. Tons of it was going on at this time. You also had epic fantasy, which became really popular. You can think about high fantasy things like, I had some really good ones. The Conan the Barbarian. You had we just watched what did we watch recently? We watched Time Bandits, which is a blend, Last Starfighter, Krull, Dragon Slayers. A lot of these movies were all heroic movies, and they all a lot of them blended sci-fi and high fantasy, which is kind of what you see here. That kind of the epic story about a hero. Very popular in the 70s and early 80s. Number 3, but what happened to it? So it came out in 1980s. It came out when this was supposed to be popular. How did it do? Well, it tanked. Maybe that is not surprising for many of you. It cost $35 million. And to date, it has only made just over $27 million. So it still hasn't made its budget. The funniest thing about that, though, is that the world, it's on the world scene, most of that's US. On the world scene, it's only made 68,000, which kind of is a little bit of a chuckle because usually the numbers are not quite that far apart. Anyway, there's a lot of things we can talk about, but I'm going to skip over the academic stuff and get to the music because, of course, that's really the thing that's probably made most of the 27 million was the fact that Queen did the music. And how can you that's what most people remember. Of course, as we heard earlier. So when Queen was asked to make this, it was late 1979, and they were, and I'm quoting, they were looked forward to the opportunity to create the first ever heavy metal score with rock-based orchestral compositions. They wanted to make a comic book movie score, and these are words coming directly from the Queen, Roger Taylor. They wanted to make the first rock and roll soundtrack to a non-music film. Now, we did Xanadu, which also had rock music in it, but that was a musical. So you have... Yes, I know.
You guys are going to have to pay for my therapy after all this.
So Queen loved this program. It took them just a year. It was a very tight schedule. They got it done. They were in different places. They worked independently and got it done. Released the album as a Queen album. And they didn't just do the score. They did it all. They liked integrating the dialogue. It became a whole living creature of the movie. And like I said, it was more popular than the actual movie. And probably one of the reasons the movie has hung on so long is because of Queen's presence. And then finally, number 5, the cast. This is where it gets probably a little fun. I enjoyed this part of it. First, we have Sam Jones. Where are they now? Well, he was in Ted and Ted 2. And apparently they reference this movie. I have not seen the Ted movies, but my partner immediately said it when we watched the movie last night.
I was in Ted.
You were in Ted?
Yep. I was an extra in Ted.
The Sam Jones Ted scene is awesome. If you have any love at all for Family Guy, you should watch that. Sorry to butt in, Heather, but it is very, very funny, and it is very, very awesome. I love it so very much.
Well, and so that's the recent thing with him. And there is actually a documentary that made in 2017 called Life After Flash, where you can find out exactly what happened to Sam Jones after Flash Gordon was made. And a lot of the other actors are in it, so you can watch that. Now let's move on to Timothy Dalton. Let's do him next. So he is still alive, and he is probably best known as 007. He was in 87 and 89, 2 different late 80s movies. He's been more recently in Penny Dreadful. He was also in Beauty and the Beast. But again, when you look at it, you see Timothy Dalton, you probably think 007. So that was him there. Prince. Prince, what was he?
Almighty is he.
Oh, no.
Prince Baron.
It'll come to me what his name is in the movie. Now let's talk about one from my heart. We have Chaim Topol, and he is the Doctor.
And he is, anytime I look at him, I only think one thing: Tevye from Fiddler on the Roof. And if you have not seen Fiddler on the Roof, it is one of the best movie musicals. It was in the early 70s and it won Academy Awards. So that was him. And he died in March 8th, 2023. So that's sad, but he was a great actor. Next, we will move on to Ming the Merciless, Max von Sydow, Swedish-French actor. He was in the movies forever. He was in The Seventh Seal in 1957, the Ingmar Bergman movie. The Exorcist, he was in. He was the Exorcist in 1973. More recently, where is he now? Well, aside from the fact he died in 2020, but before that, he was in Star Wars The Force Awakens. He was Lor San Tekka. He was also, probably even closer to now, Game of Thrones. He was the Three-Eyed Raven, Brynden Rivers. So he's been in so many things. If you look him up, you will see him everywhere. Then finally, I did those 4. I have one more. We are struggling to have a witch connection. Where are the witch? Well, where is the witch connection? Well, I have a witch connection before I turn this over to you guys. There is one. So there was a guy that was loading suitcases onto the airplane. Who was that guy? That was none other than Robbie Coltrane. And who's Robbie Coltrane, you ask?
Hagrid.
Hagrid. So there's our witch connection. He was eventually became the Harry Potter character Hagrid. He died in 2022. So we have a few really good notes about the actors that I had fun with. And I've spared you my academic and film nerdy discussions about misogyny and racism and all of the other things that emanate out.
We're going to get into, I'm sure.
That emanate out of the 1930s movies and shows. So we can talk about that later. Thank you. That's it.
There is a witch connection, though. So when Flash is abducted to so what is it? What is the planet?
Mongo.
Mongo.
When Flash is abducted to Mongo and Ming the Merciless is going to wed Dale Arden against her will before he shoots her out to space, he says, execute him. Meanwhile, the daughter has wanted so badly to keep him, and so she somehow prevents his death, and she goes through and she resuscitates him. And when asked, what am I doing? I thought I was dead. She says, I brought you back with magic, silly. So there is magic. There is necromancy. And there's real necromancy because she was in love with a dead guy. Anyway, that's the other witchcraft connection. And Ming uses the power of his mind, sort of like Darth Vader in Star Wars. So he uses a force of sorts.
He's magical. Ming is like an evil wizard plus being a terrible dictator and not a very good father. I mean, he's got a lot going on there. I think he fits the wizard role, which we do wizards on our show.
I don't read him as a wizard at all. That does not read for me, but that's okay. That's
like the ring and like apparently surviving being impaled by a spaceship. Heather, did you even watch this film?
Yeah, I saw this film like a million times as a tiny child. So
I know that you did because we are the same age, and I've seen this film like 100 times.
Yeah,
well, there certainly is ritual in it, ritualistic things, so that
when they're in the tree,
robes, cloaks.
And they're doing the initiation in the tree, and she says we have to stay back here because they're doing an initiation. Now it sounded like for a minute that we were watching Flesh Gordon in that ritual. I'm not going to lie.
True.
It did. That's why at first. Oh, what is the movie I saw? No. Well, I must say
there are moments.
Yeah. I must say this is another one of those. Somebody should have told me I should have watched it high. This is definitely. I mean, I sound like a big old stormer, and absolutely not. It's just we've had a good handful of movies that would have been better high. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
The costumes were so pretty.
The costumes were beautiful.
Pretty.
Do you know what I missed, though? I have to tell you what I really, really missed from the 1980 version is in the 1936 Buster Crab version. I mean, Buster Crab makes me drool, number one. Number two is that somehow in space, men wear short booty shorts. No pants. I kind of miss that. I'm not wearing pants right now.
I'm not surprised at all.
You know, in the old one also, apparently the original Flash was a Yale, which sport? Polo? He was from Yale and he was a polo player, I believe. Like he wasn't a football player originally. He was from Yale. Like it's a totally different scenario for the original one.
And he's much more buff than, I don't remember his name in the 1980 version. Buster Crab was. Whew. If I were Ming, I would have been wanting to marry Buster Crab.
Can I tell you guys a story that sums up my thoughts on this movie?
Oh, no.
So I have never seen it, and I had to. It's not free streaming, so I had to pay for it. So I went on to Amazon, and it was $14.99 to buy or $5.99 to rent, and then it was on sale. So to buy it was $4.99, and to rent it was $5.99. And I could not bring myself to have it on my list of Amazon movies forever. So I paid the extra $1 to only rent it.
You could have not kept it. I got that exact thing, and I said for a save $1, I bought it. I don't know that. Yeah.
I will say
I could not have it. I could not have to look at it on my screen forevermore.
Courtney, that's you set that
I
up.
knew already. Well, and then I turned it on, and then I was like, good choice I made. And it was I'm going to tell you that I only watched 30 minutes of it because I'm in California and I'm peaceful, Courtney, so I fell asleep because it was nap time. It was time for my California siesta. So I fell asleep. But guess what? In that 30 minutes, I knew everything about Richard-Lael's synopsis other than the rocket ship poking him at the end. But I saw everything else. So
because you got to watch the end because the beginning, it's really like irritating. And as you watch it, it's just, you get so wrapped up in the campiness. And I mean, you have to, when you had the end is where he yells dive. And that's that was my favorite part of the movie when I was a kid is watching those fly. It's so cheesy by the end, and Ben and I were it was like we were making fun of the movie more and more as we got out. It became like just a comedy. It just became fun.
Well, it was cheesy. It was also cheesy at the beginning, and there was a hot second where I was like, oh, am I being killing treed? And I was a little bit excited, but then they all came out in their fancy outfits, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening and why. And then they couldn't, there's a man who is a football player who's apparently so stupid that he can't know his own name, so he has to wear it printed on his shirt. I didn't understand that. And then he can't fight or do like a dance fight or whatever it was they were trying to do, but throw him some sort of intergalactic egg, and he can beat them all via football. So that was it. I saw that and I was like, yep, okay, I got the gist of this, and I'm gonna have a siesta.
The football scene is one of the best scenes in the entire movie. Helped a lot because the Queen music is so good. You know. If you are
I'm a huge Queen fan.
You can destroy an army.
Right. I'm a huge Queen fan. I love Queen. But the part where he was like, he gave somebody like a knowing look and then captured the intergalactic egg and then barreled through them like he was tackling them. But 2 seconds before, when he did the same thing without the intergalactic egg and he bounced off of them because he wasn't strong enough without football, I don't know. It was a lot.
There's a lot of it that's like that. The whole
Yeah.
movie is based on just things you go, I don't even know how that just happened. Dale, like,
oh, I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say, I mean, Dale and he just met on the plane, and like 14 hours later, they're getting married. Like, what the heck?
Well,
I love you. We have 14 hours to save the Earth.
they survived through the hot hail, which apparently everyone else knew what it was except me, because I wrote down in my notes in all capital letters hot hail with 3 question marks, but everyone else was like, oh, a meteorite just landed, everything seems fine. And then like the blood rain came, or whatever the red clouds were, and everyone was like, the pilots were jumping, I don't know, everything was crazy. But the hot hail, nobody was bothered about the hot hail. I was bothered about it because I didn't understand
No,
what
I
it
was bothered by that, like his panel of things to destroy the Earth, and it
Yeah.
says hot hail, and you're like, what is hot hail? Is it like
Yeah.
flavored with chili powder or something? Or is it a hot day where it hails? I'm just very confused by hot hail as well.
But I feel like it was all of those things and also small meteorites. And so it changed because at first he was like sitting there and it started hailing and it looked hot outside. Okay, so that's what hot hail is. Until the meteorites started falling. Oh, okay, so that's what hot hail is, I guess. But they all, throughout the entire time that the hail was falling in its various hot forms, everyone seemed fine about it.
Who was
And nobody
flying?
seemed-
The house was catching on fire. The one guy.
But nobody was like, this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened. Is this hot hail? Nobody said anything like that. They were just like, oh, the sky is falling.
Moon chunks.
Let me move. Yeah, the moon. Oh God, the moon chunks.
There are moon chunks.
I feel like I don't know why we did this movie with moon chunks, but we can't do Anchorman and find some witch connection with Anchorman. Like,
Because
come
this
on.
one is magic, and Queen is magic,
Mm.
and it's magic. And Ming
The magic was them.
the best villain ever.
The magic
though
was them
racial
getting
stereotype-
$4.99 of my money.
He's a racial stereotype, and he reads as East Asian. And in England, they have now rated it, what is it, NC-17 or something, because of foul language and racism. And yes, but it was the 30s. And it doesn't make it right, but it's the 30s. And if you would have watched the entire, like the 4 series of the film from 1934 to 1940, you would have. This was a condensed version of all of those things. Only they had better costumes. It's the 30s.
Yeah, the movies and the superhero stuff from the 1930s and into the 40s was so xenophobic, was racist, xenophobic. Sometimes when I was doing this book and other work I've done on other projects for film, sometimes you watch a movie and you just have to go running to the shower, and you have to take a shower after you go, oh my goodness, I can't even believe this exists. But yeah, this one is, especially these, you had a combination of the 1930s xenophobia, which they did not get rid of at all in this, like not at all. I mean, this could have transported back then and they would have been okay with it. And then you had the 1970s misogyny that exists actually, even though the 70s was really trying to break that, you have it come back in all of this style film. The misogyny in sword and sorcery films and in some of the sci-fi stuff, especially when it's mixed with fantasy, is so crazy. I mean, I don't know if I think the only girl that actually wore clothes in this movie, the full clothes, was the one with the gold hat. You know, every single bad person had an accent of some sort.
And they were all different.
And all different. You know, what's interesting is the cast, this was also US, UK thing. And the cast was from all over the world. Generically, we had Italian actresses, we had, Swedish actors. It was really cool. But yes, the actors, all of the bad guys had foreign accents. That's the xenophobia. It's crazy. So, yeah.
Yet everyone still spoke English.
Yeah.
Right? I love when I go to a foreign planet, and I visit foreign planets often. Everybody there just speaks English as default. I mean, they don't speak any other language from Earth. It's always just English. And you get to see that in this movie.
But different accents.
It's so accurate.
Part of
Yes.
the planets they came from. Yeah. But great costume. Even if they were naked girls, but they were also naked boys.
I like the naked boys.
Opportunity.
The black leathered underwear. That's how you die in the gas chamber.
Yeah.
The proper attire for the gas chamber.
I feel like every costume was something someone would have worn to Plato's Retreat, which was a swingers club in New York in the late 70s, because that's what it felt like in this movie. I mean, it really, everything that they wore was about as revealing as possible, with the exception of Timothy Dalton and his characters, the Tree Men. They look like Robin Hood, but everybody else, I mean, they're ready for a night out at the swingers club.
Yeah.
Well, there was a few others. There was the lizard men were on the creepy side. Those were the guys that kind of did their own costume and didn't spend a lot of money. I'm not sure what that was with the eyeballs and the face.
I mean, but the Hawkmen are just walking around basically in their underwear and wings. I mean, that's it right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Studio 54.
Right. I mean, there was a lot of cocaine. There was a lot of cocaine in the late 70s, early 80s, and it shows in Flash Gordon.
So in the original 1930s, they were Robin Hood type too. I mean, I don't know the cartoon. This is the first time I've seen it. But in Flash Gordon, they were Robin Hood type things too. All I can compare it to. So
in the 30s, I haven't watched all of them, but I have watched a number of them, and they have a lot of similarities to the 1980 film. A lot of the same characters, a lot of them that they don't have, like Shark Men, which are men in Speedos painted silver. Like, why are they sharks? I don't know, but they're Shark Men. It's almost the same.
They could. And the women could not have, in the 1930s, that never would have been allowed on screen dressed the way they were in the 1970s ones at all. There had to be fully costumed.
They didn't allow the belly button to be shown, but I will say that the woman who played the princess in 1934, she did have an exposed midriff, but it was above her belly button. So she was fairly undressed too. But the funnier thing was that all of the men who have these flouncy shirts on and then these little sort of swimmer shorts underneath. Because apparently in space, nobody wears pants in space. I mean,
well, with all that hot hail flying around, it's too warm for pants.
No, I thought it wasn't a planet. I thought it was a system. Like it was a moving system where all these different, because they're flying on spaceships to different areas. So I thought it was, was Ming on an actual planet, or was it a system with different planets?
Well, Mongo's a planet. That's what it's supposed to be.
But didn't they have the little planets off the frozen planet and the Shroomy planet and
around it?
And Krypton and
I want to say Timothy Dalton's area is a moon of Mongo. I think that's what they said in the movie. I think it's like a moon. And then the Hawkmen, their place just sort of like floats in Mongo, like, a giant castle that just sort of floats in the atmosphere, kind of.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, the whole like cosmology makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense at all.
Oh, there's me.
But that picture makes sense.
That picture makes sense. This was actually a few years ago, right before I left Pasadena, when I shaved my head and I didn't have facial hair. So that was me as Ming the Merciless, who, in spite of Courtney being bored, is the greatest villain of all time. Courtney was bored. She needed a plaything.
That was my first quote that I wrote down.
Because you only watched the first part of the movie.
Well, I was bored, so I needed a new plaything.
I must say it did not hold me as much as I wanted it to, because I kept going, oh wait, what's going on in the closet? Oh wait, what's going on in my show? I love the costumes. I love the ridiculousness of it. I love the camp of it, but I wanted to hold me a little better than it did.
I thought the middle part is really kind of a slog. I mean, I watched this movie in a movie theater when I was a child and thought it was the coolest thing. It was one of those movies that ran on a loop on HBO if you had cable in the early to mid 80s. And every time it was on, I would watch it. So I grew up loving this movie. But as an adult, it is really boring in a lot of places, though I think the set design is really cool. And I loved all of that because it felt contemporary for that period. And yet it really harkened back to the 30s serials in a way that George Lucas loved those serials, but he didn't capture how they looked. And I really thought they did in this film, and they did a good job of that. And the costumes are great. Some of the performances are not good. Sam Jones, who played Flash Gordon, had at least 10% of his lines dubbed in by another actor. And some people think it's much more than that because he had a falling out with the director while they were making the film. So, I mean, and his performance is terrible. And Dale Arden, like the woman who plays Dale Arden, she is also terrible, which is why both of those people have never been heard from again, other than in Ted.
And Flash Gordon was there in silver underwear. Claude Rains was the Invisible Man. And I really got hot when I saw Janet Scott fight a Triffid that spits poison and kills. I'm not going to go on.
Good. All right. Well, we have discussed the film. Courtney, speaking of quotes, do you have any quotes upon this beautiful, colorful film?
I don't have a lot, obviously, but I did scribble some down. The first one was, Clytus, I'm bored.
That's
What plaything
iconic.
can you offer me today?
Iconic.
Well, also, I was like, wow, I feel seen during this movie, so I wrote it down. Then when he was with his stupid little like panel of disasters, he said, I like to play with things a while before annihilation. I thought that was very dramatic, and I like that. Then I just wrote down hot hail in all capital letters with question marks. Then after that, the plane sound. Okay, I didn't talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. It's not a quote. But when they were flying through the air in the plane, and then the blood rain came, and the sky was red, and then they were careening out of control, there was plane sounds that was the same plane sound just repeated over and over again, and also maniacal laughter in the background. And it was like the same sounds, but like over and over again. And so I wrote down the plane sounds and laughing. I cannot. And then at some point, someone says, and I don't even remember the context of this, but someone says "cowabunga," and I thought that was pretty funny. And then when they cut to like the doctor, whatever his name is, the scientist guy, and his little helper. Yep, and his little helper starts screaming, "There's no sun! There's no sun! It's 8:24 a.m. and there's no sun!" And then the doctor goes, "Check the angular vector of the moon." Like that was something. Like he did some science. And I was personally offended. And then at gunpoint, he yells at his person, his little helper, "Get your toothbrush and whatever," because he's gonna make him go to space. So, but like at gunpoint, let's be calm about it. Those are my quotes.
Thank you. I should have written some down because there was a couple I really, really liked later in the film, but I didn't write them down. So
yeah, I really enjoyed the what's his name with the gold face?
Yeah,
Clytus.
Yeah, him and his buddy, the female buddy that he has with the black. I really, every time they spoke, I repeated their lines just because it was it became so much fun. For us,
he sounded like a Disney villain.
Exactly. I loved it. It was so great. Just their voices and the things they kept, and the whole thing became so comical by the end. It was more than just watching for us by the end. It was just pure comedy. So I wish I had written some of those down as well.
I have a quote, actually. This is from the treehouse scene where they're doing the ritual, the initiation. And my quote is, oh, 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 oh.
And wait, I do love a ritual. She says something like that. She said, "Oh, I do love the coming of age ritual," or something like that. She says right before.
Yeah.
I mean, and Heather, you've been quoting like on our text, like all like the last 3 days, because there's one particular line that I think that you love, and it's just one word, right?
Die! You have to see that, Courtney, just to see it when he does it, because it's so funny. It's so classic. He says it.
I'll try
times.
again.
No.
I'll
just
try.
Fast forward.
You can just watch the clip, I'm sure, online. Just type in "dive" and Brian Blessed or Hawkman or whatever, and you'll find it.
Yeah, it's funny.
We won't torture you with the whole film.
I think we should torture you with the whole thing.
Well, it's
so good.
I went to sleep in self-defense, so I'm on vacation.
Okay. All right, in cool, casual California. All right. Well, Mr. Jason, are we up to our Mankey movie minute moment?
This is going to be more than a minute. This is the best one I've ever written. I'm so proud of this. And probably no one will like it because I think it's the best one I've ever done. So just remember that I love this film, even though I have mixed feelings as I'm older. But Flash Gordon is one of the most unbelievable films ever put to celluloid, and not just because it's a science fiction film. In fact, the more fantastic elements of the film might actually be the most believable elements of the film. I, for instance, totally buy that a small plane might get hit by a meteor, killing the plane's pilots, but not completely destroying the plane, with that plane then crash landing into the workshop of the only person on Earth who believes that the world is being attacked by aliens. Also, I completely believe that such a disgraced and eccentric scientist would have a rocket ship full of jet fuel nearby and be completely ready to blast into space. Rockets don't take thousands of people to build or anything, or require millions and millions of dollars worth of fuel to escape Earth's orbit. And speaking of orbits, where the hell is the planet Mongo anyways? Do they fly through a wormhole to get there? Does Mongo just hurtle through space like a comet? I have no idea, but these are small quibbles compared to my bigger issues with this film. Let's start with Flash Gordon, who is apparently a famous quarterback for the New York Jets. If you know anything about football, you know that the Jets are one of the most sad sack losing teams in the history of the NFL. They have won a single Super Bowl, and I think that was way back in the year 1921. Since then, their most famous quarterback is Mark Sanchez, who ran into the butt of one of his offensive linemen and then fumbled the ball. That play, truthfully known as the butt fumble, is probably the most famous play in Jets history. And Flash Gordon, the movie, would have me believe that Flash Gordon is an all-pro quarterback on the New York Jets. The Jets don't have all-pro quarterbacks. When Flash throws those football-shaped urns at Ming's troops, all of those throws were too on target for a Jets quarterback. Also, Jets fans yell Jets, 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 Jets during games, apparently proud of the one word they know how to spell. Flash's love interest in this film is Dale Arden, a travel agent who dresses like she's never left her hometown of Smallville, Kansas before. Dale is a walking nap and about as exciting as a wet sock. Yet somehow Flash falls in love with her after knowing her for all of 8 hours. Throughout the whole movie, he mopes around saying, "Dale, Dale, take me to Dale," like a big dope. What makes this all super unrealistic is that Ming's daughter, the Princess Aura, is totally into Flash. And let's talk about Aura for a minute. She's everything Dale is not. Aura dresses at all times like she's ready to play at the bondage club, has a sexy as hell accent, and you just know she's freaky. You don't have to settle for monogamy when you are with Aura. No sirree. There's just no way Flash is going to continue pining for dull and humdrum Dale when Aura is right there. And Aura is a bad girl, and that makes her more fun. And on a personal side note, Aura might be responsible for my sexual awakening as a small boy. And now, the most unbelievable thing about Flash Gordon, the movie's soundtrack, somehow by the rock band Queen. Queen is one of the greatest groups of all time, and yet they lowered their standards to an almost subhuman level to create the music for this absolutely ridiculous film. Prior to the Flash Gordon soundtrack, Queen had just released the album The Game, an album with all-time bangers like Another One Bites the Dust, Save Me, and Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Imagine that after finishing up the album Folklore, someone asked Taylor Swift to write a commercial jingle for Twinkies. That's what Queen following up The Game with Flash Gordon is like. It made no sense in 1980 and makes even less sense today. Also, I know good and well that Princess Aura would eat me alive, but I'd still like to experience it.
Wow. Yay.
Bravo.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was your Mankey minute moments are amazing. I just leave it at that.
Mhm.
Better every week. Okay. Well, we do have one thing to do left. Everybody grab your wands. Wands up, wands down. And all you guys, you guys are talking great out there, but we need to know wands up, wands down, wands somewhere in the middle.
I just can't. I can't. I was going to do like a tip. I can't. I have so much love for this movie from my childhood that it has to be up. It has to be up.
Mine is almost completely up. It's just I didn't like that I got a little bored in the middle because I shouldn't have got bored between the music and the costumes and the ridiculous campiness of it. And it was sad that I did, but it's almost straight up. It's almost direct. It's almost direct.
Oh my God.
That's what she
I love
said.
this movie. I love everything about this movie. I have to admit, I even kind of snickered, wrongfully so, at the xenophobia and sexism because it was so campy and so 1930s. It was so awful, and maybe I should go to confession, but I really loved it.
All right, so what do we have in the chat room? Wands up, and horns up. Wands up, way up. Give it wands up because Richard-Lael is dressed as snazzy as ever. That deserves wands up. We should just start wanding up and wanding down at Richard-Lael's dress for the week every week. So okay, we are getting way up from everybody out there. So if you didn't see it, go see Flash Gordon.
Wise, Colin. Very wise.
And if you're over 18, you could go see Flash Gordon. It's very, very similar with even less clothes. And
I might watch that one.
Did you watch that one?
I might watch it. The boobs and butts cut. I need that.
Patti, I have to ask. Before we watched this movie for the show, you had never seen Flash Gordon.
I had never.
But you had seen Flesh Gordon.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you see it in a theater?
I saw it in the theater. I think I saw it in like an adult theater, and it was, I believe, my very first film ever. We were underage whenever we saw it. I don't know when we saw it. And, but it was funny too. It was campy too. So for your first adult film, it wasn't just dirty feet and sex. It was the crazy costumes. It was all these same characters, but it was like Prince Precious or whatever it was. It was funny, and it was the evil sex ray that was going to get the earth, and it just makes you rip your clothes off. So
this is some tea right here. Patti going underage to an adult film, and it was Flesh Gordon.
Yeah,
Patti shared I saw the trailer today though, and to be honest, it didn't look much different than what we just watched.
That's why I thought
like the production values are very close.
That's why I thought I had seen it.
I was looking for the villain. I haven't seen it, and I was hoping that there would be a Ming the Merciless in it. I'm not certain there is.
There's got to be.
There's got to be. Yeah, they have everybody. I can't remember, but yeah.
I have to go watch it now.
Yeah, you can go watch it. Yeah. Anyway, what are we watching next week? I have no even idea.
Tarot. The new one. What is it? It's 2023.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's
4.
this
I
year.
think
It was May.
It's
I
4.
think it was May.
Oh, okay. Then 2024.
It was May.
Back to horror.
Back to horror. No more campy. I bet you the costumes won't be nearly as good.
Mm.
It just really makes me feel my costume house I just cleared out. That's what I must admit. Yeah. Anyway, so why don't we do a check-in for everybody? Because why don't we start with you, Courtney? Because you're away from home. You're in beautiful California.
Yeah, I love it here so much. We went to the Queen Mary, and I had what I can only describe as like a past life experience stepping onto the Queen Mary. I felt a lot of things connected to the Titanic while I was on there. And we did the steam and steel tour. So we got to go down into the boiler room and find out how she was built and how she ran and all the engineering and everything like that. And it was really, 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 really cool. So we did that. Other than that, I've been like floating around SoCal doing some things. We're going to be hitting LA and Hollywood over the weekend and doing some other fun stuff, maybe San Diego. So that's my week. I'll be back in time for next week's movie Coven. And yeah, I'm just a California girl. I'm posting pictures on Facebook. I will probably post some on Instagram. So if you want to keep up with what we're doing, come find me over there.
Sunblock. That's what I say.
Yes.
You're a little Massachusetts girl. All right. Jason.
In 1 month and 4 days, I'm going to Italy for 3 weeks. So at my house, that's like our whole life, and we're counting down to that all the time. But when I get back, I will be in Vegas on the 19th for the Samhain Soiree, and then in Iowa, in Cedar Rapids for a whole weekend of workshops and rituals. That's like the 25th through the 27th. So a lot of stuff coming up. I'm very excited about the trip.
Beautiful.
But I will miss all of you, of course.
Of course you will. Richard-Lael.
I am here in New Orleans, and I am the gentleman psychic. I am doing seances and tarot here in my home. I don't have much availability at the moment, but that's what I'm doing. I did not write the book, but I wrote the foreword. Kate Furler wrote Magic at the Crossroads. She is so brilliant in her writing. I have not been so impressed with someone who could so succinctly write on Magic at the Crossroads and the Devil and Witchcraft. It was brilliant. Also, I'm at University Magicus, and I teach there typically on Saturdays, along with Patti is there, and we've got a lot of people who are there.
Yes, and I must say, I was just for the very first time at Richard-Lael's beautiful home this weekend, and it truly is the most beautiful home I have ever been in my entire existence. Every inch of every piece of everything is just heavenly. I'm still speechless over it. So yes, thank you. He gave us, we had tea and cookies and amazing. So thank you for that, Richard-Lael. All right, Heather.
Yeah, hi. I am going to be I'm coming to you from Atlanta, and I'm always in Atlanta. And we just finished up Mystic South, and I know some of you were there, and that was fun, but finally starting to feel like I've come out of that haze. And I'm taking a little break, and then I am getting ready for Charles Oz, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is a national Wizard of Oz convention. So that's going to be a totally different thing for me. I get to speak about the Wizard of Oz witches as they grow from 1900 through to today, and what makes them change. I'm very excited about that. So if you're in Charlotte, look for that. There's going to be some great things, like the guy who wrote Wicked is going to be there, and I can't wait to hear him speak. Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of good talks about all things Wizard of Oz for I think 4 days.
And so I will be speaking, I believe, on Thursday, but I'll give more information as I get closer. After that, I have some things coming up in the fall and some news as things roll. I'll post them and share them. But right now, I'm just looking for the looking forward to the fall temperatures, because right now the heat down here is starting to get old. So, frankly, I'm over it. But I'm just working with my great authors and enjoying every moment of it. So that's what I'm up to.
Yeah, I was just in New Orleans with Richard, and it is humid there on that side of the planet. It's very warm and very humid. Not used to that in our little California. Anyway, thank you. And speaking of Llewellyn, I am proud to announce again, I am now a Llewellyn author. Thank you, Heather.
Woo! Yay!
I'm so excited about this book. Been working on it. It seems like a very, very, very long time, but a lot of love has been put into that. So that will be coming out in 2025. I'm very excited. This weekend, if anybody's in the Buffalo, New York area, we're doing a really fun thing for a really good cause. Daniel Klass, if any of you know, he's a paranormal investigator and an all-around great guy. He owns the Hinsdale House, the very haunted Hinsdale House. His daughter was just diagnosed with a very bad cancer of some sort, and we're doing a whole fundraiser there in Buffalo, New York, this weekend. So if anybody's in the area, it's going to be a fun, great evening. Monique Tosoon, like the one really amazing drag queen paranormal investigator, and we're doing galleries and game shows and very family-oriented stuff for this beautiful family who needs help. Next week, I'm going to be in Michigan for Michigan Paracon, my favorite big Paracon, way up north in Sault Ste. Marie, and then I'm going to come home and just polish up my passport for my tour, the Weird and Worms, Witches and Dragons, basically, of the UK. We're going to be throughout with Liz Legwens, who's one of the teachers at our school at University Magicus, and she's a historian, she's an archaeologist and a Norse witch, and we're going to do magic all across Europe. And then I get busy after that. So like us and follow us, all of us. We are all on social media. That helps. Go to our websites, buy our books, get a goat. We have lots of things. So yes, Wednesdays, come here. Tell your friends about it. Get yourself look at your twins, Heather. Those look so cute together.
One of them doesn't belong here. One of them is headed up to Massachusetts as soon as Massachusetts girl gets home, or LA girl gets home.
I don't know if I'm going home. We'll have to find out.
Well, you got to give me an address in LA then.
Yeah, I love the no humidity.
You have to come, Courtney. You have to visit the best part of California, though, which is the Bay Area of California.
Well, there's already been talks about planning the next trip, and that is NoCal is going to be the next trip. So
all right, that's right, because then I get to like take you everywhere.
Yeah.
I know, you come to town and I leave. There you go. I would love to show you Hollywood if you're up here when I am here, but otherwise next time. But I don't know that Northern California is the best. It is lovely indeed, as the Southern Californians would say, but best.
It's the best.
I lived in both. I loved them both.
I love them both. I was just in Northern California 2 weeks ago. It's great. But you notice that it gets cold at night? Isn't that weird?
It does get cold. Actually,
I love it.
It was one of my favorite things when I lived in San Francisco, is that people go, "Oh, it's California," and they wear their little booty shorts, like I was telling you that I love so much, and then they decide to go walk across the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever, and it's so cold.
Especially in August and September. Those are the worst months. There's a fake quote from Mark Twain: "The coldest winter of my life was the summer I spent in San Francisco."
Good one. Yeah, it just gets cold at night because we don't have the humidity, I guess. I'm not a weather person. I don't know what it is, but I did not get cold in New Orleans, so that is great. So next week, everybody, tarot, whatever you want to call it. New movie. Do we know where we can see it yet, or just look it up?
Netflix. It's on Netflix right now.
On Netflix. Okay, so let's discuss that. And we're at that time. So I was trying to think what we could do in addition to cackling.
Die!
Die! Die!